Let's take a look at our agenda. And what we're going to cover today are some high-level items regarding working with the drawing styles. I'll take you under the hood a little bit. Given the time we have allotted here, we won't be able to cover everything, but hopefully this will be enough to get you started, or maybe fill in the blanks for some areas you might be struggling in. So to start things off today, I'll go over an overview of the view arrangements. We'll also look at setting up the detail title and the cut view title that goes along with your drawing style. These are all tabs that are right across the top of the main dialog. If you're not familiar with them yet, then don't worry, I will be going over those in live fashion here in just a moment. We'll also look at the behavior of the model object selection. How do the drawing styles prompt us to select what we need to become part of that view? And of course, the objects presentation, which is one of the larger and deeper rabbit holes that we find ourselves in when we're working with the drawing styles. And hopefully I can shed some light on that for you. So we'll also look at arranging some dimensions and some things that I've encountered that I'd like to share with you, and hopefully not necessarily cut corners there, but make your life a little easier when you're working with the dimension strategies for your views. And of course, cleaning up some views that have excess information on them. I'm sure those of you that joined us today, you're probably here because this is something that is an issue for you. I agree with that. We've all created some drawing styles, and there's either way too much information, there's duplicates, there's things overlapping, and that's not what we expect from our drawing styles. But it is up to us to remedy that. And of course, you know, a lot of times we all feel disoriented. So I'm going to show you some ways to overcome that. And lastly, we'll touch on the prototypes and ways to keep your title block information up to date. And along the way, one thing that I'll be reinforcing repeatedly is how to do all of these things or make all of these changes without having to scrap a drawing and start completely over. Very focused on making this process as quick as we can without cutting corners that could come back to bite us later. All right, so let's get into the Drawing Style Manager. Anyone who's been in here at all, this is the first screen that comes up. And there's one of the styles right there. There are plenty of branches, and it's very easy to get lost in here if we go too deep too quickly. So I'm going to start shallow, and then we'll just slowly go deeper. So over on the left here is your drawing style. That'll be the top branch for each of the styles listed. Right underneath that, your view definitions for that style will be shown. Some styles have one view, like this one. Other styles have multiple views. You'll find those types of styles for your single part drawings and your assembly drawings. The view definitions are also listed in the view list up in the middle. So when we want to add views or remove views, this is where we'll go to do it. This area also shows what objects are included from your model and where it's going to be located on the drawing. And so in a moment, I'll be showing another drawing style that has multiple views, so you can see the difference. And that's the one we're actually going to work on. A single view drawing style, there's not much there. So what I'm going to demonstrate is going to be a drawing style that's a little more involved than this one. Also, in your view arrangement, you can control the spacing between the views. It doesn't really say it that way. It calls it the arrangement definition. That means spacing. And there's a few choices that come out of the box. Of course, you can make your own, which is what I like to do, for any given drawing style. Sometimes I like things to be spaced a little further out than the choices that are provided out of the box. And then your preview here will show you where each of those views that are in the list right above there, so you can check that before you run the drawing style. The detail title is the next tab over. That's your view title that normally sits right underneath one of your views. And it only controls two things, the location and the content, what's in the view. And this is where I spend most of my time. I usually go with the default for the location, but I'm always updating the content in this section right here. Same for the cut view title. Your location and your content. So the behavior is the exact same for these two areas of the drawing style. In the last tab, the model object selection. Normally, we don't have to change this unless we're creating a drawing style from scratch. But typically, I like to find a drawing style that's just close to what I'm after. And then this is something I don't find myself changing, but this is where you go to do it. So if you want to be prompted to make a selection window, this one's very common, is to make a selection window and include any XREFs that might be captured by your selection. It's a very common setting. Some of your other ones in the single part and assembly categories, you'll see them choosing under those groupings here, main part or single part and so on. So I'm just pointing this out, but normally this is one we don't really have to worry about. Then from here on out, we're going to work on a new style. And I've broken this up into stages, so we can kind of break one down and then build it back up. So first thing we're going to see here is just going to run a style that's out of the box. It's going to have multiple views, and then we're going to make some changes as we create the new style. And the first set of changes we're going to make here is we'll update the view title that's underneath, and then we'll change the scale for those to get it started. So the first thing I'll do here is I'm just going to select one of my beams. I'm going to make a single part drawing of that, but I'm pre-selecting before I enter the drawing style manager. I'm going to go under the single part category here, and the one I decided to use today is going to create a front, a top, and a bottom view. So it's that one right there. You can see your view arrangement, and I'm just going to hit use and take the default settings. I just want to get a drawing started, and then we'll be back and forth between the drawing and the style so we can run it. All right, it's run, so I'll use the document manager to open it. All right, so there's our multi-view drawing. So I'll start by looking at that view title. I was never a big fan of yellow or that frame that's around the part mark. So we're going to change that first. To do that, I'm going to pre-select something from the view. This just helps speed things along as we're moving back and forth. Now, before I make any changes, I'm going to start a new category. So I'm going to go up to User and right-click and choose New and create a custom category for myself. This could be named after the company. And then I'm going to copy that drawing style. And I'll tweak the name. Usually I'll put custom out front or the company's initials out front or something like that. And I'm also going to update some more of the name here. In the end, I'm not going to have that bottom view. I'm going to replace it with a right side view in the end. I'll finish that, and then I'll drag it down to my new category. But I want to point something out here. Even though I made a copy, both drawing styles are still using the same views. So if I make any changes right now to those views, that would be a global change. I don't want to do that. So anytime I'm about to make a change, I always duplicate that component. However, one thing that we can change is the view title and the cut view title and things that are at the top level of the drawing style. So all I'm doing here is I'm removing that frame. I'm going to change the color from yellow back to the default so it matches the rest of the view title. I'm also going to make the size the same for everything. And for the name, that's actually a token. So I'm going to back that off just to show that you can drop tokens in to your view titles. And in this case, the name token pulls the part mark from that beam out in the model. And I'll finish it up by underlining it. And we'll just hit use. And since I already had something selected in one of the views, then it goes ahead and updates it. I don't have to select anything. I'm not sitting on a prompt doing it that way. That's why I pre-select before I go into the drawing style manager. From here, if I go to change something from one of the views, there's the modification warning. I'm sure that you have all seen that before today. So whenever I see that, I usually back out and then I duplicate that view and then I'll make my changes. I'm also going to be a little more descriptive here and add the scale to the name of the view. And that's really just for me. Now I can change the scale and I don't have to worry about affecting any other styles. I'm also going to go to the assignment categories and move it to the new custom category. And that's just for organizational purposes. And I'm going to repeat that for the other two views. And since it's the scale that I'm changing, then I'm going to change that in the name as well, make it obvious. Okay, last one. All right, we'll use this again. Now the drawing's up to date. So we have a new view title and a new scale for all views. All right, now we can turn our attention to what's in the views, like the dimensions and the labels. Also, I'm not real satisfied with a bottom view here. It seems redundant, so we're going to remove that view and then add a new one so we can add one for the right side so we can see the beam from the end. Again, I'm going to pre-select something from one of the views. And I'm just going to go and remove that bottom view from the list. I'm just going to take it out and then run the style again. Oh no. So it won't run. Now we start getting frustrated, yeah? So here's how we get around that. I'm going to select the outer boundary for all the views and just delete it from the drawing. I'm going to save it and then switch back to the model, select the beam again, and then run the style. So this will be a fresh run, but this is what we do. Also, I'm going to modify the settings here instead of create a new drawing. That way I can reuse my existing drawing. And there you go. So when the number of views changes, then you have to remove all the views and then run it fresh. But this way you don't have to delete the drawing and recreate the whole thing. Now I can add a new view in its place. And I decided to use one from the 5 assemblies category. I'm going to use 5 beam section. It's close to what I want. I just need to make a few tweaks to it. So again, I'll duplicate it. And it's ultimately not an actual section, so I'm going to take that out of the name. And I'm going to call it end overall. I'm going to add a little bit of detail to it. It won't be fully detailed since there's a lot of detail in the other views. Also, we need to set the view direction because it still wants to cut a section through that beam. I'm going to change the view direction to object right. That makes sense. We just want to look at it from the right side. Lastly, back in the view arrangement, we're going to set the arrangement to right. Also, the distance here. I'm going to put some space in between. So I made one for myself to have 2 inches of space in between each view. Oh, and again, we can't run it because the number of views is different now. So we have to delete the views. Again, I'm going after the outermost green rectangle for all views. Switch back to the model. Select the beam. Go back into the drawing style manager and hit use. Again, modify the settings so you can choose the existing drawing again. And that puts it right back in place. And you can do this while your drawing is still open. That's the whole point, is to keep the drawing open so we don't have to keep deleting and recreating, going back to the document manager over and over. Okay, so now we've got 3 views. And instead of that bottom view, we now have the right side view. Now, it does need to be updated. It's got some information in it that isn't going to be necessary here. And so we'll look at that next. So my workflow there is mainly, I like to set the views up first. Get the scale the way I want it. and get the views located how I want to see them. And then I'll turn my attention to what's in the views, the dimensions and the labels and how things appear. So next we will look at cleaning up the dimensions. I'm going to focus on the top view for this one. As we look at what was provided by the original style, there's some duplication here. We've got things that look like they're dimensioned twice. And same thing on the other side. And it looks like it's around the notches or the copes. So again, we'll select something from one of the views and go back into the Style Manager. And under the top view, let's look at the view dimensions. We don't want to totally overhaul this. We just need to remove the duplicates. Again, before you make any changes, make sure you duplicate that dimension strategy. You want to keep the out of the box unaffected. And one thing I like to do when it comes to the dimension strategies is I like to group the X's and the Y's together. So I'm just going to scoot the lone X dimension up with the rest of them. It just helps for readability. And then I'll just remove what I found to be the excess dimensions here, which are these two right here. Just take them out. We're already dimensioning the copes, which goes for the notches. Once that updates, you can see that the extra dimensions are removed. And from here, you might just clean things up. This would be a manual effort, placing the labels as well as the other dimensions how you want to tidy up your view. This is something that as part of our drafting task, we would still need to do. Some things Advanced Steel places it exactly where we want, but not everything. It will still be our responsibility to tidy up the rest. Another thing I find myself doing is, depending on the standard involved, if you don't like underlines for things like your hole dimensions, you might select those and then go into advanced properties and just do a manual edit on the leader line, for example. So I'm just going to add that and add a landing to it. So it'll look like that. And then again, it did place those and they're on top of the beam. If your current workflow is to have things outside the geometry, then we'll just move those manually. It's only a few, so it won't take long to do. One thing that's nice about these labels, though, is the arrowhead will connect itself to the nearest hole or bolt. It keeps it that way. You don't have leader lines that are exceedingly long. All right, over on the right side, fix this view next. And same idea, we'll remove what we don't want in the view, and then we'll add what's missing. One thing to point out here is when we start working with the dimensions and the labels, just be advised that these two here that you're seeing, that weld symbol and the label for those bolts, those are not dimensions. They are labels, which means they will be controlled under objects presentation. So keep that in mind. Okay, so in the right view, just like we did for the dimensions in the top view, we're going to remove the excess or what we don't want, and then we'll add what we do want. In this case, I'm going to add 2 overall dimensions. to that right side view just for the width and the height of the beam. So again, I'll select something from one of the views and then back into the Style Manager. And under our new view, we'll look at objects presentation first because there were some bolts that were also shown. This is a single part drawing, so we don't really need to see other parts right now. I'm going to duplicate and then make the changes to the objects presentation. Again, this isn't really a section view, so I want to make sure I name that accordingly. And since all I care about right now is the beam, so I'm going to move that to the top row. And then I'm going to start deleting the excess from the objects presentation. If it doesn't have to do with a beam, I'm removing it. So all attached parts, punch mark. I am going to keep the whole presentations though. But everything else we'll just take out. Run it the way it is, see what we got. Okay, we're getting warmer. The bolts are gone and the excess labels are gone. Now we're going to look at the whole presentation. Those holes are filled in by default. I've had a lot of customers tell me they don't like that. So let's remove the filling. And that has to do with the presentation setting here. Now, if you look at the setting here, it has hatch visible as part of that. Let's just change it to the visible hidden setting, which is a very widely used setting in objects presentation, but it doesn't show holes as they're filled in. And since we're not dimensioning the holes in this view, I chose the presentation of visible hidden, so we don't need the center line for the hole. So if that's something you do need, we would choose one of the other options if you're going to dimension holes in a view like that. But they're dimensioned in the other two views, and that's why I'm not going to add dimensions for the holes in this view. Now for the dimension, again, I'm duplicating the dimension strategy because none of those dimensions apply here. So I'm going to take those out as well. And then the remaining one here, we're just going to change that definition. And I'm going to go down to the main part category. And I'm going to choose the extremes options. In this case, I'm going to use the X extremes top. That's going to give me a dimension that is the outermost points of this component or this beam. And it's going to be on top. And I'm going to make a duplicate of that and then set the second one to be the Y extreme direction. This is going to give us the width and height and nothing else. So if that's all you want in your view, why not just remove all the other things from the drawing style? Now, one last thing, when you see holes, you might want to ask, where's my hidden line? So when that happens, we can rely on good old line type scale, the LT scale variable, and set that accordingly to update things like hidden and dashed lines in this drawing. And for the other view there, to update the presentation of those holes, I would do the same thing, go in there and change it to the visible hidden setting or one of the other presentation options that just doesn't show the holes filled in. All right, so now we've got an updated drawing style. top view, a front view, and a right view. I showed how to clean up the dimensions a little bit. Of course, there could be more cleanup for some of the other styles, but the process would be the same. I also showed how to add a new view and then update it accordingly. Just keep in mind that whenever you are removing views or adding views, that changes the number of views, in which case you won't be able to just update the style. You'll have to delete the views from your drawing, save it, go back to your model, and then basically run the style again from the model to rebuild those. What you don't have to do there is go to the document manager, delete the drawing, and create a whole new drawing all over again. You can do it that way if you want, but if you want to save some time while you're working on your drawing style, you can keep your drawing open the whole time if you just go and delete those views. All right, last thing I'd like to do is do a little title block update. We're going to get away from the out-of-box Autodesk title block. So I'll go over to the Labels and Dimensions tab and change the prototype. Now, I did prepare one ahead of time just to save a little time today, so I'm just going to switch to it. This is one way to do it to an existing drawing. Also notice that there is a piece of information missing from the title block. We like this information to be fed to our title blocks. That has been left out, so let's update that. To do that, we need to go back to the model, and on the Home tab, we'll go to Project Settings. That's over next to Management Tools. So we'll fill it in the model first. Then you can go to Labels and Dimensions. If you expand on the Management panel, you can update the page header, which is the title block. And that can also be done while your drawing is open. Again, no need to delete the drawing and then recreate it when you have to make a change like that. There is one piece of information that is not part of Advance Steel, and that is for a sheet title or a drawing title. So if you have a sheet title that's part of your current title block, this is one attribute that we will still need to fill in the old-fashioned way. There is no token for a drawing name or drawing title or sheet title that's provided. But the rest of the items that are filled in the title block, Advance Steel provides a token for that, which is part of your title block. So keep that in mind. If you don't have a sheet title, then it's not going to be an issue for you. But a lot of times you might want it. So just remember, you'll just have the one attribute. That'd be the only one that you have to fill out manually. All right. So a little review and some tips for you. As you saw me do, each time we entered the Drawing Style Manager, it's a good idea to pre-select something from one of the views. It doesn't matter what you select. It could be a dimension. It could be the view boundary itself. As long as you have something selected, when you re-enter the Drawing Style Manager, then when you use that style again, it seems to update a little bit quicker because we're not getting prompted to pick a view when we do it that way. So I've made this a habit. I always pre-select. Next, you don't have to delete the drawing from the document manager and then recreate it every time. You can leave your drawing open, and that's where pre-selecting comes in. Or if you are prevented from updating because you changed the number of views, delete the outermost view boundary, save the drawing, and then you can run the style again by selecting that element from your model. Because it can just add time when you have to go to the document manager, delete the drawing, run it again, go back to the document manager, and open your drawing. So you can cut all that out by pre-selecting. For your title block properties, again, don't just delete the drawing and recreate it. You can use the update page header command from the model to repopulate your title block. That's another one that ends up being a time saver during the setup process. And lastly, always duplicate the drawing style before modifying. If you're an advanced user of Advanced Steel and you're comfortable working with the out-of-box styles, I think that's an exception. But to play it safe, it's a good idea to always create a new style and everything that's underneath it. That way you can avoid that modification message and risk that global change, which can affect some other drawings. And we don't want you to get burned there. So it's okay to duplicate those. So that way you can always fall back on the out-of-box if you need to. And one more tip regarding those title block tokens. I did mention that I'm not focusing on title blocks today, but I want to make you aware that when you are working on your title block, there is a list of tokens, and it's in the help system of Advanced Steel. You can just open up the help dialog and search on the keywords title block tokens. It'll be the first hit. And that list will tell you what you need for all of your attributes, which is how we feed our title blocks. And that is it for the tips here. I would like to mention our resources that you can take advantage for self-help. We do have a YouTube page, and on there you'll find the recordings for all our previous webcasts, and this one will be online shortly. And all the ones that we've already recorded in the past, those are up on this page here. Plus, we have plenty of articles on our blog. If we didn't make a video or a webcast, then we may have written an article for the shorter topics. We also have plenty of content in the Hub, which is a customer-only section of Hagerman.com. If you are already serviced by Hagerman, then you probably have a login for that section of our website. I suggest that you check that out. And for anything else or any questions you might have after today, feel free to contact us, and we'll be happy to do what we can for you to help you with your drawing styles. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. I hope you find this useful. And I'll pause for a moment and see if there's any questions in the chat panel. Okay, at the moment, it doesn't look like there are any questions outstanding. I will pause for a moment in case someone happens to be typing at the moment. Doesn't look like there's any questions coming in. So again, thanks for joining us today, and feel free to contact us directly if you have any more questions. Ashley, back to you.
Okay, well, thanks, Brett, for the presentation, and thank you all for attending. A short survey will pop up as we close down, and also that reminder, or the email that you'll be receiving tomorrow, which will contain a link for the recording. Have a great day, everybody.